My name is Denis, and I'm representing Locus Robotics here today. And on behalf of Locus Robotics, we'd like to talk about how robotics automation is innovating and improving fulfillment environments. Before we go into some of the use cases and the solution portfolio, I'd like to give you a flavor of what particular problem statement we as a business are addressing. Before Locus Robotics got founded, the founders of our business were actually in the 3PL industry, navigating fulfillment services for digital native brands, helping them to set footprint in the United States within e-commerce. And what the business was facing and struggling with is ultimately the sheer challenges of limited productivity in a very manual environment. What you can see here on that particular video, it's a little bit like you're, navigating through your own supermarket and fulfilling your own order. Lots of walking, your cart becomes heavier and heavier, you have a lot of distances between every single pick. And that time is being considered a waste. So with that, we're seeing that overall operations are still more than 80% fully manual across the globe, within the United States, overall North America, as well as in Europe, but also in APAC. And next to that, what we see is this whole divergence towards e-commerce. The pandemic has fueled that additionally. And what the problem with e-commerce at the very end of the day is, it's very hard to make this economically viable. A lot of your overall revenue streams are being diminished by simply the operational expenses you have. And one of the reasons is really, if you think about wholesale and retail overall in comparison to e-commerce, it's less labor intense, because right now within e-commerce, that one single touch for fulfilling one unit is sort of the same manual effort as been before consolidating bulk units for bulk orders in wholesale environments. Combined with that, demographic changes, I'm sure you've heard it already, but just to reinforce that, with the baby boomers going more and more into retirement, we see in the major industries that there is going to be a lack of labor availability. And we see that problem already today. Within the warehouse environment and fulfillment environments, typically the average age can lie between 45 to 55 already today. Combined with the physical strains, that environment becomes harder and harder. So businesses are not necessarily only facing how to become more cost efficient, but also how to keep up with the expected throughput given the challenges of labor requirements. So as shared, this is typically how a manual order is being fulfilled today. Fulfillment overall, each picking and order picking is one of the most manual, labor-intensive use cases in the warehouse environment. And the way we're thinking about automating that and rethinking how labor is being structured is to replace the pick cart with mobile robots, but allocate splitted work on every single robot and bring the work to the people. Segregating people from the work cart or from the robot allows us to also rethink how people are being utilized inside the pick zone. So instead of having folks walking throughout the entire pick environment, we're now allocating people to a specific zone, and we're bringing the work into those respective environments. And we'll go through a few examples how it works in practice, but to give you a simplified example, top view, how we're thinking about it. So to give you a flavor, Locus Robotics has commenced with that core use case of each picking. We evolved the solution into put-away replenishment, so the same interaction, vice versa. But now we're also slowly but surely diversifying our product portfolio in form factors and use cases, and are looking into case pick to pallet, pallet transportation, amongst other use cases, which we'll touch on as well today. It's not just only utilizable in an existing environment due to the natural navigation it uses and the limited adjustments to your infrastructure, but also in mezzanine structures where you could pass your orders respectively throughout the warehouse, and then also for greenfield. Half of our deployments are roughly in the greenfield space, but specifically in brownfield operation we can deploy with our solution as well. So to give you a flavor of how the business is utilizing Locus in a real environment, a couple of examples here, from narrow aisles to very wide aisles, with mixed traffic with MHE. There are different environments where Locus is deployable, from high racks to bookshelves as well as mezzanine operations. And then from a product portfolio, effectively any single niches within retail, medical, pharmaceutical distribution, as well as service parts for industrial purposes, like the automotive industry, for example. Now, in terms of productivity increase, how do we enable to pick more or replenish more with the same amount of labor? Absorbing the horizontal walking, reducing the distance between every single pick is a major proportion from that. But it's also the user interaction with the system that we're very focused on. This is, to give you a flavor, the user interface of the iPad. You see one of our core robots displayed here. And effectively what that UI shows you is visualized, quick information, easy to understand what the work task is looking like. So in this particular example, we're indicating to the picker you need to pick one pair of socks, you have a particular pick location, B03, and so forth. And imagining you have more specific thoughts on the robot, we'll show you a few configurations. It also visualizes you were to put that product respectively into it. It has an additional integrated scanner unit that makes the picker entirely hands-free. So what that means is effectively it's reducing a couple of seconds per every single pick. It may not sound like a lot, but if you multiply that for your millions of units of orders of units you're picking annually, it's actually a significant reduction in pick task time. Now, in addition to that, the user intuitivity in comparison to a typical RF handheld scanner is not just only the visualization, but also facilitated training. In a warehouse, typically businesses face 10 to 20% of turnover per year. Means 10 to 20% of your stuff is changing, constantly changing, year over year. In peak, when you look at the typical Christmas business, Black Friday, Cyber Monday week, you add 3-4 times as many resources into the mix for 4 or 5 weeks, and then the people are gone again. Training all that is taking a lot of time and it's cost. So what we're doing is we're not just only enabling intuitivity, but we're also allowing for dynamic translations through having every single associate a Bluetooth tag that is associated with specific parameters, specific personal settings like language requirements, for example. We can anonymize, we do not have to, but we can allow pickers to see their own performance, which can motivate additionally to increase overall performance and pick productivity. So just to give you 2 examples, language requirements very easily adjustable in the respective countries we operate, as well as in the same country with 5-6 multiple languages. In Germany or in the UK, you may have pickers with French languages, with Ukraine, with Polish, and many, many other languages that we can dynamically translate. Outside of that, the business has been launched in 2015, and we've been born in this digital age, surrounding our solution with latest sensing technology and being very data-driven from day one. So what we provide is actually to our customers back a lot of those data insights. So from an executive point of view, no matter where you are in the world, you can immediately see in real time the performance of your operation. You can also historically drive specific variables that you'd like to understand further and derive that from portals we give our customers access to. And maybe even more importantly, it's more the operational usage of that data day to day within the warehouse. So from supervisors to operations managers, we provide data points how volume and how concentration of volume within the pick zone is evolving. Everyone here in the warehouse environment may know about the fluctuation. How is my Monday and Tuesday business looking in e-commerce? How is my Friday fluctuation eventually looking like, et cetera, et cetera. And we give customers provided insights and dynamic suggestions on the right ratio between robots and humans, help to allocate how to plan labor in combination with the robot fleet. And then also for the associate itself, next to the user interface, we provide visualization of robot locations through variables, for example, which we equip our customers with, as well as other data insights to their own personal performance. So that said, to give you a flavor, as shared the different industries where Locus is currently deployable, from batch picking, as you can see on the left-hand side, picking single units for single orders that then are going straight away into packaging, from discrete e-commerce orders where you see different tote arrays, from 6 orders to 12 to 15 orders, all that is pickable on one robot, as well as picking to outbound cartons. If you think about today's fulfillment environments where you utilize pack stations, you could you could get rid of that. You could pick on the robot. We have mobile printers connected to the robots. You can print the label right on the robot and send the bot to dispatch and avoid all your pack stations. Additional space requirements, additional space utilization for potentially other tasks. And then also customs configurations. We carefully say every single warehouse is trying to solve the same problems, but every single warehouse is also unique in its own requirements, so we can easily adjust that. From a business model engagement perspective, our business has been an early advocate of robotics as a service. So not selling our robots to you as a customer, not translating ownership, but keeping ownership and providing you productivity increases and data insights as a service. The reasons for that are effectively to make it easier for you to make a buying decision here. If you think about stationary automation, ASRS, goods-to-person robotics, it typically comes at CapEx. Next to the additional infrastructure, purchasing the fleet comes with a lot of capital upfront investment requirements. And if you then look at the return on invest you're realizing, it may make you nervous. It may make you nervous. You do not know where your business is going to be in 2 to 3 years. You as a 3PL may have your own contracts with your customers that are temporarily limited. And it may be very hard to justify that investment. And having been in a corporate organization before, as of specific 7-digit investments, you need to align with way too many people in your own organization to actually make a decision. So that said, how we think about it is a simple one-time setup fee covering some of our upfront costs, project management, mapping, effectively everything that is needed to get the site up and running. And then we provide the robots as a service. So we provide you a minimum fleet, ranging from 10 to 200. We're now starting to set up first sites with even 400 robots, where you then pay on a monthly, quarterly, or annual fee in advance for those robots. And then you can flex that fleet up and down. Means that for your peak, where you may have 2-3 times as much volume, you just simply add robots in combination with a few additional associates, but with significant less dependency on labor. And then after that, we take those robots back. We take those robots back after a 2 to 3 or a 4-month usage. You can even go further than that with a lot of flexibility. To make this simple, in terms of questions, what is included, what is my maintenance fee? It's a one and only fee covering effectively anything that is required for you to utilize the solution and to continuously improve the solution. So the robots do inductive charging. The charges come with it, any software updates, any additional optimizations. Speaking of data, we derive a lot of data insights after 1 to 2 months of operation. We have a dedicated team that then guides our customers, handholds our customers in order to maximize the utilization, as well as any replacements required. If a bot breaks, we'll replace that robot for no cost. We cover the transportation for that. We'll ensure the robots come pre-configured. And you're able to move on with the solution. And all those dashboards that we've showed, everything is included. Very simple. That said, if you think about how does Locus enable to provide robots temporarily and then take that fleet back, think of just last year during peak between October and December, we have shipped an additional 2,000 robots to customers and then took them away after January, February timeframe. And the way it works is we have 2 operational service depots, one in the US, one here in Amsterdam actually, where we ship bots that have been used. These robots were a couple of months in action. We then repurpose those robots. We inspect them, we potentially dispose, we refresh a few components. We test those robots, we reconfigure them, we skin them, like for one of our customers who's going live in September in Spain. And then we reutilize those robots in the field again. So this is how we're also able to maximize our assets and actually provide you with that flexibility. And again, to give you a flavor how easy it is to set up additional bots, this is Jet, your Chief Customer Officer, demonstrating how easy it is. The bots come pre-configured, packaged. You unwrap the robot. She is 1.60 m, not the strongest person in this room, I would say. Easily could pull the robot out. It's a 45 kg form factor. And effectively, she turns on the robot. The robot automatically picks up connection with the network. automatically adapts connectivity to your warehouse management system, and it's ready to go. So this is how easily you can flex your fleet. And just take that example as some food for thought. Also, if you would like to flex your fleet between mezzanine operations, between different zones of your operation, as well as moving robots between picking and put away or replenishment, for example, as well as returns handling. So there's a lot of flexibility how our customers can navigate and adjust their own fleet. As a business, we consider ourselves as one of the leading AMR providers, given the focus we had from day one, given the industry experience. Our founders, again, have been in the fulfillment space and invented a solution to solve their own problems originally before it got spun out. And now we're in Europe across 9 countries, about 30 deployments. We started 2.5 years ago, and some of our customers are leading 3PL brands as well as retailers, consolidating and operating their own fulfillment environments. As a business, we're currently present in North America, Europe, and we're slowly but surely commencing our expansion in APAC. That said, one example as a case study, Boots is one of our largest sites here in Europe and one of our first customers in Europe. And Boots is in the business of beauty and healthcare, cosmetics, and consumer products. And Boots has been navigating, it's in the UK. In the UK, we have very often centralized warehouses, and Boots was already operating back in the days a centralized e-commerce facility next to the 2,000 stores in the UK, through which they've been fulfilling e-commerce in a hybrid model as well. Now, when the pandemic had hit, Boots was already utilizing Locus. They operated 85 robots to satisfy about 70 to 80,000 lines per day. And when the pandemic had hit, those 2,000 stores had to close. Now, what that turned for Boots was a significant impact on the e-commerce business. When I was on that store myself, on the e-com store, I was number 900,000 in line, in waiting line, just to get access to the website, because people were so used to e-com penetration in the UK has been already fairly mature, and people were used to utilize that store, not being able to go to the physical stores anymore. They just commence and continue to order even more for the e-com store. So what did that mean for Boots and us? We were facing suddenly from going from some 50 to 80,000 lines per day to 130,000 lines per day. And already in typical peaks, Boots is struggling to get enough people. They are shuttling pickers 1.5 hours away from their site just to get enough resources. You pay the resources the moment they touch the bus, and they drive, and they're being dropped off later on again. So that's an additional 3 hours of labor expense. So what we did then is we accelerated the quantity of fleet on site. We moved from 85 to 130, 135, and volume continued to grow. So now we moved to 200 robots, and that operation has been using almost for 2 years consistently 200 robots. Now the pandemic is slowly but surely normalizing again, and they don't have the same e-commerce demand anymore. So now they're operating 140 robots, and it's a great example of how flexibility can be leveraged in an automated space, and how robotics automation can be utilized in spaces that have never been designed originally to actually utilize robots. The overall automation landscape is very noisy. There are 200 AMR businesses, if not even more. As I speak, there may be a new one I have never heard of. You have storage and retrieval systems. You have Exotech and AutoStore here. You have goods-to-person robotics. And all that has in some form its value. There is not one solution that fits all. So to give you a flavor, to narrow it a little bit down, the way how we're focused on ourselves and how to give you a flavor where the solution may be of value for you, of economic value, is overall, first of all, the capital expenditure, the business model we're providing, it's lowering your entry barrier. If you're not having capital, if you're not seeing the decision-making process, realizing a quick process, then RaaS may be actually lower entry point of view. If you have an existing site, a storage and retrieval system, a goods-to-person system, may be too disruptive for your environment. because of change. If you operate in a mezzanine and you'd like to leverage that existing mezzanine, a goods-to-person system may require mezzanine reinforcement, additional capital required for that. If you would like to automate tomorrow and not in 2 years. Some of the solutions may have a lead time of 12 to 18 months. With Locus, you can deploy in 2 to 3 months with an expansion in between 4 to 8 weeks. So there's a lot of flexibility. Again, we're not requiring additional infrastructure. Before I forgot to mention, we're exhibiting our robots back there. So if you'd like to come by and see the navigation, how the system behaves, we mapped the site yesterday here in less than half an hour, just to give you a flavor of how quickly we can operate. And then also, if it comes to this flexibility and scalability, again, stationary automation may not be as flexible. Goods to person, where you have pick stations, every single expansion is a new construction.
We need that you go more in light because you stay
Oh,
in the dark.
okay.
And photo is not so nice.
Okay.
You need to stay more
No
light.
problem. I was told to stay more in light, so my apologies for that. And yeah, effectively with that, having that additional flexibility, it gives you a lower entry barrier, and it may be a good starting point and entry point for automation. To give you a flavor of the scalability our system has, as shared, we started back in 2017 with our very first customer, and since then we have almost picked 900 million units to date. We're expecting our first billion in about September, October timeframe, and as shared, we have about 200 sites in operation across the globe. Out of that, major significance now as well in Europe. So to give you a flavor, again, how do we create density? In a manual pick space, you're trying to put as much work as possible on one cart to optimize your route. With Locus, we're breaking that down and we're having more leeway how we actually bring work to people. So here you see one woman, one person dedicated to one or eventually two aisles, and constantly we're clustering new work coming from the warehouse management system, being fueled into our system where we provide the respective work. And a person can reach from 120 to 240 units per hour. We see some sites where we triple the productivity. It's very much depending on there are lots of variables who are impacting that, but effectively the productivity increase can be varying widely. So that initial focus and maturity of our solution, combined with the dashboards and our navigation, actually has incentivized to think about what's next. And what's next has been driven by our customers. Many of them are of global nature, and they're not looking for 20 different partners to solve 20 different problems. But we all agree there are lots of other opportunities in the warehouse space when it comes to horizontal automation. So we acquired a company that was very ruggedized in hardware, providing agility through so-called mechanism wheels. Where we're now integrating our business applications, our existing business stack, combined with our navigational stack, in order to become a strategic provider in horizontal automation.
Please make your way to your next one-to-one meeting at the stand of the relevant sponsor.
So to give you an example here, you see, first of all, we're looking at further cubic dimensions, bigger form factors, point-to-point transportation, potentially pick-to-pallet, case picking, and all that under one orchestrational platform. So here you can see the agileness of that particular system. We're capable of navigating existing rolling cages with those form factors in order to also provide dynamic replenishment. If you have, for example, very critical or urgent orders, we can allocate that as a new replenishment task, allocate the work into the pick zone, create a new pick location within our software, and allow robots to understand where to pick next from. So this is all integrated into one harmonized system. So we'd like to say the right bot for the right job, different form factors allowing to manipulate different products with different payloads. And to give you a flavor, this is the current product family. And effectively, what we would like to provide you is interoperability of different use cases, different form factors, everything harmonized under one platform. So you have one dashboard, you can have access to different performance metrics for different use cases with very limited integration. So summarizing that, with Locus Robotics, we consider to be not just only a vendor, but a partner of yours to help you to improve your labor utilization, help you to become more independent, help you to manage and increase your throughput, reduce training time, overall make life easier when it comes to operating a warehouse environment, help you to control your costs, have low entry points with a very flexible engagement model. And also increase your cycle time. By breaking up orders, by breaking them down and onto a single robot, we're able to reduce respective cycle times, which is also an important metric for some customers. And as shared, we're now early June. If you would like to automate just before peak, may sound like quite an engagement, but it is possible. Last year, we started at this point in time the initial planning of some sites, which still went live. And if not for this year peak, we still encourage you to commence the conversation, engage in dialogue, compare with other solutions to better understand what works for you, and effectively be able to learn and experience the solution with very low risk. Thank you. Any questions? Please. Yeah.
Thanks, Dennis. You said about inductive charging. Could you just talk us through that and the sort of the implications for uptime of the bots, please?
Did everybody hear the question? Yeah? Okay, perfect. So with regards to our bots, so the robots that you've seen, they're all connected to the same charging unit, so you do not, first of all, require multiple chargers. And we have respective uptime with the system of 10 to 14 hours with a 45-minute charge for 80%. The way we think about it is to say you don't need to worry about it. When we do an evaluation and we determine how many robots you require, we're already including the calculation of how much robots would on average charge, which is typically 8 to 10% of the fleet. It's constantly charging, and the fleet is self-managed. So as the robots need to charge, they go themselves to a charge station. They block that station for all other robots, and once they're done, they release themselves and go back to work.
Okay. Daria from Atlantic Group. I have a question regarding the collaboration robots with other processes in the warehouse. So we saw the, I would say, swarm model during the picking process, but I think on the last video I saw that it can be done other process as well simultaneously while the robots are doing their in the picking process. So is it possible to have, I would say, another technology doing replenishment of the picking process while the robots are doing the picking process? And another question about the new technology about the pallet robot. Is it only for positioning, replacing pallets from position A to B, or can they be also used in the picking process?
Yep.
Thank you.
Perfect. So related to the first question, there are two processes I would distinguish. The first one is other manual processes. So MHE, different material handling equipment. You may have reach trucks in your space. You may have pallet jacks. You may, just want to get started with picking and still do the replenishment task manually. In that environment, the solution operates in harmony with manual operations. We have many sites where we're actually only doing picking at this point in time because there is a phased approach to integrate replenishment. And actually customers like Boots report less incidents due to the already reduction of manual traffic in the space. But to answer your question, short answer is yes, the robots can operate in that environment. They're not just only utilizing their sensors to navigate and localize themselves, but also to avoid obstacles. And every single understanding of obstacles is being shared with the fleet. So the fleet already has a heads up. They have a glass bowl in which they know there's an obstacle coming. So you can easily and safely avoid that. Now, with regards to other automation solutions that may be eventually used in the space, the question on the one side is, first of all, if it's just the avoidance of it, then it's the same answer like for manual operations. If it's the integration, the interoperability that you would like to realize, in effect, in theory, that's always doable. The question is, what is it exactly, and have we already an integration in place? So for example, we're integrated with automated packaging machines, pack size, to name one example. An integration with the AutoStore solution to pick something actually from the AutoStore solution to the Locus solution. That's an easy setup that can be enabled and be incorporated into the project. So it's really depending on if there's already something existing, but the integration overall is not complex. We're cooperating with leading entities like SVT Robotics, who is specialized on enabling that interoperability. And then in the automotive space, like the VDA 5050 standard, that's something we're capable of supporting too. We just have never faced it yet as a necessity, to be fair. Yeah. What was the second question? The pallet, thank you. So the robot is used for point-to-point transportation A to B, but also for case pick to pallet, for example. So like this robot is currently meeting at a pick location, the bigger form factors, the deck load system, is meeting at a pick location to allow for case pick to pallet, for example. Good question. So instead of having the iPad, we're providing variables. Yeah. Excellent. Any other questions? Okay. Perfect. Then, how much time do we? I think we'll give you some minutes back. We can do some emails. Yeah. Okay, perfect. No, but if there are no questions, then thanks a lot for your time. I'll stay here for a few minutes in case there are other questions, or if you'd like to get in touch with us. And then again, just a friendly reminder, we're exhibiting back there, where you can talk to some of our colleagues as well as see the operation and even do a pick and experience the user interface. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.